getting tangled up with people, and I've been talked to about that, and I've settled down a little bit, and we're looking for some good results. It's turned around for us. We have some momentum. I think we're going to have a real good year.
Well, we're just moments away from finding out whether Chris Smith has found the consistency that leads to championships. With me to call the action today at the Glen, a former champion in Toyota Atlantic competition and a winner here at Watkins Glen, Brian Till. Brian, consistency is what it's all about.
Well, in my book, you're right, Bob, but the guy that's been the most consistent is Stuart Crowe, sitting second in the championship right now. But Stuart knows it takes another ingredient besides consistency to win championships.
Well, you know, it's been we've had a good year. We got a third, 2 fourths, and a fifth. We're second in the championship. We're here to win the championship, although winning races is what it's going to take to win this championship. And we have a new car coming out that it's going to behoove me to help me win the championship, and that's what we're here for.
A look at the points shows just how close Stuart Crowe is, right there in second, while still looking for his first victory. Quickest this weekend is Russell Spence. He's standing by with Bart Kendall.
All right, from the drop of the green flag at the start of the weekend, Russell Spence has been the top of every time charge. Russell, it's looked easy so far. Do you expect the race to go as smooth?
My Virgin Steady Systems Reynard has been performing faultlessly all weekend. I'm sure there's 23 other drivers trying to stop it going as smoothly as that, but the 3001 team has done an excellent job, so really in good shape.
Thank you, Bart. Second round qualifying here at the Glen was washed out by rain, and so we have a very interesting grid. 3 of the top 4 in points will start up front, but there are a group of fast guys at the back. Once again, here's Bart.
I'm back here near the back of the grid where we were 3 cars who were normally farther up in the grid. First, Carlos Benetti, current rookie leader in the Toyota Atlantic Series. Also, Bert Hart, who had a very strong run at Lime Rock, and 1987 champion Calvin Fish. Now, Calvin, you're not used to starting this far back. You're used to winning races. What put you back here?
Well, unfortunately, in our first race with Falanga Motorsports, we had a problem in the first qualifying. We only did 1 warm-up lap, and we had an electrical problem with the engine. And then the second session was wet, so we were unable to improve our times. But we got a new motor in there for the race, and we expect to move up quickly.
Should make for a very interesting battle here at Watkins Glen.
You're absolutely right, Bart. If we're going to allow our occasional Toyota Atlantic Championship broadcast colleague to get back into a race car, by golly, we expect him to move smartly back through the field. We'll be watching Calvin Fish and the rest of the field, and we'll be back with more of the Toyota Atlantic Championship from Watkins Glen in just a moment. Today's race is brought to you by Toyota Motorsports, where technology on a fast track is built into every Toyota. And by Budweiser, the king of beers. With that clean, crisp, cold taste, nothing beats a Bud. Back at Watkins Glen, Bob Barsh and Brian Till with you. The Toyota Atlantic Championship contenders are on the track, warming up tires and engines. They'll come around and we'll get the most exciting moment in motorsports, a standing start. First, let's show you our weather conditions. Temperatures in the mid-70s, partly cloudy. A fairly stiff breeze keeping things cool, blowing from the drivers left to right as they make their way up the pit straightaway on the front side of this racetrack. Always a chance of rain here at Watkins Glen, but we don't expect one during this 25-lap race. Now, I mentioned the standing start. When the cars get all the way around and take their positions on the grid and everyone is stopped completely, we'll get a red light, and then within 3 to 7 seconds, a green light. The drivers will bring the RPMs up to more than 10,000, drop the clutches, and we will be on our way. With that, let's take a look at how they'll line up for today's 6th round of the Toyota Atlantic Championship. On row 1, Russell Spence from Bradford, England, hoping to get his Reynard back into the kind of the shape that allowed him to win the first 2 races of the year. He was quickest in the morning warm-up. Next to him, Charles Neerberg, a surprise, the Texas oil man with his best qualifying performance of the year, driving a heavily modified Swift DB4. On row 2, Chris Smith from Palos Verdes Estates, California. His pole streak has ended at 3, but he comes in on a 2-race winning streak. Next to him, Steve Cameron, racing out of Sonoma, California, originally from New Zealand. He is in a Reynard. On row 3, John Marconi from Laguna Beach, California, with his best qualifying performance of the year in a Swift. Next to him, Jamie Gallis, son of Rick Gallis, the IndyCar owner from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Jamie 3rd in points, but still looking for his first win of the year. On row 4, Harold Heisman from Oslo, the star-crossed Norwegian. Russell Spence's teammate looking for his first finish of the year. Next to him, Peter Fawcetta Jr., racing a Swift out of New York City, carrying one of our onboard cameras. Row 5 will be Canadian Robin Buck racing next to Stuart Crow. They crashed together in the most recent round of Montreal. Sergei Sortica and Gene Pope will be on row 6. Row 7, John Miranda and Gustavo Gutierrez Jr. Bert Hart and Tony Stefanelli will be on row 8. Calvin Fish and Colin Truman on row 9. As you take a look through the rest of the field, we should know the track is 2.45 miles around, and it's changed in configuration from when you raced on it, Brian.
That's right, Bob. 2.45 miles, like you said, 11 turns, but the biggest change has been the addition of what they call the inner loop at the end of the back straightaway. Actually, a series of chicanes attached by a short straightaway designed to slow the drivers down before they enter the very fast right-hand 180-degree corner at the end of the back straightaway. I had the opportunity to talk to some of the drivers, and this is what they had to say about it.
From the driver's perspective, I think it's an exciting addition to the track, but the speeds are still up, and we're coming off the carousel extremely quickly, so it hasn't slowed us down any. It's just off there's a couple more corners around here at Watkins Glen.
I think it's made it safer, and I think that's after last year, after slipping and making some spins in oil myself at about 150 miles an hour going into that loop, I can say that I'm glad to see the change. I don't think it's taken the fun away, though. I think it's a lot of fun going through there and as fast as we possibly can. I mean, it makes getting into the loop a lot more exciting and challenging as a driver.
Basically, before the chicane for our cars, this was about a four-corner racetrack. Adding the chicane has added some complexity and some challenge in terms of setting the car up for a quick right-left response, which none of the other corners add to this track.
I think it makes the track more interesting. Instead of just diving into that fifth gear corner, full throttle through it, you have to downshift to fourth, work the car through the corner. Car gets a little loose going through, changes the line through the last corner. Overall, I think it makes the course a lot more interesting.
Elsewhere in the pack, Peter Fawcetta, right there in the green and white car number 15, will also be carrying an onboard camera today. There is the view that Peter has. Racing out of New York City. See the cars beginning to pull into position on the front straightaway here at the Glen. It's a downhill into the first turn, so the drivers will have to hold the car in position with the brake, with one foot on the clutch, bring the revs up with heel and toe technique, drop the gear levers into first gear, and we'll be on our way. The cars are now in position. To the left of your screen, Russell Spence in the black and white Reynard. Next to him, number 7, Charles Neerberg in a highly modified Swift. And then the yellow car of Chris Smith. Up come the RPMs to more than 10,000. Bit of a rolling start, but the green light flashes and we're on our way.
Looks like everybody's gotten away cleanly.
They're going 3, even 4 wide down into turn 1.
Smoke off Neerberg's tires side by side with Chris Smith through the corner. Spence has the lead.
Smith then tucks in behind Charles Neerberg. I thought he was going to be able to go up the inside and move into second place, if not better.
There's still tire smoke hanging down there in turn 1. Spence has the lead, followed by Neerberg and then Chris Smith, and it looks like Steve Cameron right up on the back of him.
Let's get down to the pits and Bart Kendall.
You're looking at the crew of John Miranda working feverishly to get him in the race. He missed the first lap. They came out for the green flag. He had to pull right in, and they're taping up. They're kind of going for a quick fix here on the distributor. So hopefully Miranda will be able to get back in the race, but he'll be several laps down when he does.
Now we've got a car off the racetrack. That's Bert Hart. Bert Hart, who was hoping to move up through this field. He started in the 15th spot, and he's obviously got a problem. He's gone off down at the bottom of the S's.
Yeah, there's had some problem. It looks like he's lost power. He's trying to back the car up out of the way. A smart move by Bert, trying to get out of the way and stay out of the lead.
Into the sunshine on what's called the short chute, leading up to turn number 10. Look at the lead for Russell Spence. Chris Smith now in that yellow car goes underneath Charles Neerberg for second.
What a battle. He got the draft off of him, come down the straightaway, and was able to sneak inside. Neerberg gave him no room, but Smith had the line, and he took the corner.
Around to complete lap 1. Russell Spence, followed by Chris Smith. Charles Neerberg.
Oh, we've had a car off. I could see it. It's the number 77 of Sergei Sortica. He's off, coming on to the front straightaway. That's turn 11. Some damage to the front, but you can see Sergei is trying to get out of the car, so it looks like he's going to be okay.
Tough brakes. Sergei Sortica from Sinking Springs, Pennsylvania, and only his second start of the year, and it is a short one. 1 lap here at the Glen.
You can tell that he's all right. Let's see if we can see what happens.
A slightly banked turn, quite sharp. You can see he was backwards before he hit that curve. It's at least 8 inches high. Once the car gets off the ground, you haven't got a chance. Now, this is the new part of the course called the inner loop. Your leader making his way through. We've got a yellow flag. A full course caution.
Yeah, that's going to bring out the pace car. We've got Bert Hart stuck over in the turn 2-3 area, and then we've got Sergey off here on the front straightaway, so that's going to bring out the pace car. And they're going to have to help clean up the mess a little bit before they can get things back underway.
Gene Pope made an early and unexpected visit to the pits. He is now making his way back out. He's been held up at the pit lane. Now they let him go. So Pope will get back in the action, but he'll be well at the back of the field. Let's get more from Bart Kendall.
All right, down here in pit lane, Tim Neff, head crew chief for Gene Pope's car. Now, Gene didn't even take the green flag. He had to pit. What happened?
We had a bit of an electrical problem. The thing had a miss right up high, so we pulled in and just, hot-wired the master switch, and that seemed to do it. So that's about it. I mean, these things happen. That's motor racing.
The old electrical gremlins. Wow, we have had a taste of just about everything in the opening laps of this race. We'll take a quick time out and be back for more of round 6 of the Toyota Atlantic Championship from Watkins Glen. Stay with us. The 1989 Toyota Atlantic Championship at Watkins Glen had veteran Jocko Cunningham on the pole. But Colin Truman grabbed the lead at the start, and Jocko slipped back. After making his way to second place, Cunningham set his sights on Truman. The two dueled lap after lap before Jocko finally got by. At the checkered flag, it was still Cunningham's race. One more step toward winning the 1989 Atlantic Division Championship. Well, needless to say, the Toyota Atlantic Championship back in 1989 here at the Glen got off to a much better start than 1992. There's the car of Bert Hart moments ago, the driver from Boca Raton, Florida, right there in the red driving suit, pulled off on lap 1. We are now under caution, and while we are, let's meet Bert Hart.
Well, the moment I knew racing was for me, I think on the 5th lap of the 3-day school that I did, I mean, I was just out there, and all of a sudden, I mean, every part of my body started tingling, and I said, wow, this is the adrenaline rush that I've been looking for, all my life. And I knew right then that this is it. As a race car driver, I mean, you're doing that, and you're off, and you have little time in between, so I've repoed cars, painted houses, painted people's helmets, painted my race car, anything in general just to get by, to pay the rent, from race to race, and, buy a set of tires and some gas, that's what I try and do. My aspirations, I would say, to go to Formula One, but at this point in my life, I think that's stretching it just a little bit. Indy cars would be wonderful. P cars, anything that somebody's going to give me some money to do, I would do.
There you see the field making his way around. Russell Spence leads behind the safety car. Behind him, Chris Smith runs second, followed by Charles Neerberg, Steve Cameron, and John Marconi. 6th through 10th, Harold Heisman, Jamie Gallus, Stuart Crow, Calvin Fish, who started well back in this field, has now moved into 9th, and Robin Buck runs in 10th position. And you see Sergei Sortika's car being pulled in on the same lap that Bert Hart had his problem. Sortika got wild in the final turn leading onto the start-finish straightaway, swapped ends, and nosed it into the guardrail. He, it would appear, is done for the day as well. Meanwhile, on the full course caution, the field continues to circulate. Keep in mind that all of these cars are on Yokohama tires. They are a spec tire, specified tire for this series, and each driver must use the same set of tires in both qualifying and the race, so they get a lot of miles out of these tires. This is a very special season for the Yokohama company. It is their 75th anniversary. Mark Kendall has a closer look at the spec tires in the Toyota Atlantic Challenge.
An attractive feature of the Toyota Atlantic Series is that it is a spec series. All cars are powered by highly reliable 16-valve dual overhead cam Toyota racing engines, and all cars are equipped with the Yokohama racing tire. For Yokohama, 1992 is a very significant year as it marks the 75th anniversary of Yokohama Tire's parent company. It is now the world.
Thomas that won't roll anymore today on the car of Sergei Sortika, who punted the barriers. He is now out of the race. But the field continues to circulate behind the safety car, and we expect a green flag shortly. Stay with us for more of the Toyota Atlantic Championship. Welcome back to round 6 of the Toyota Atlantic Championship here at legendary Watkins Glen. As you ride along with Peter Fawcetta Jr., 3 laps of 25 scheduled are complete, 2 of them behind the safety car. However, 2 drivers are out of the race, Bert Hart and Sergei Sortika. Gene Pope has been in and out of the pits, as has John Miranda. The number 99 of John Brooks is still in the pit. Mark Kendall has more in pit lane.
You're looking at the car of John Brooks as Aku is trying to get the cowling back on the car. He had some sort of electrical problem. They clipped it, taped it together, and it looks like Brooks is going to be able to get back on the track, although he is a few laps down.
The 35 car of Jamie Gallus now has a problem. I've never seen anything like this. We can't seem to get a lap in.
And
without
look at a beautiful restart. Look at this. Smith challenging Spence down into turn 1 side by side. It looks like Chris might have anticipated that start just a little bit better as they go into the back straightaway. We saw Jamie Gallus rolling slowly through the pits. We don't know why. We don't know what the problem might be with that car as we come back through turns 2 and 3 onto the back straightaway, and look at Spence go. It looks like they've gotten the aerodynamics worked out well on that Reynard, and he can run fast in a straight line.
And look at them spread out across the fast back straightaway, reaching about 160 miles an hour before hard braking for this new inner loop chicane added to this Watkins Glen track after a couple of savage crashes last year.
Charlie Nearberg.
Charlie Nearberg goes all the way around, gets it pointed straight, drops the clutch, but he'll also drop about 10 positions.
Yeah, he might have gotten a little flustered. Cameron had gotten past him. We see Reynard, Swift, and Reynard. Steve Cameron had moved into 3rd, and Charlie just dropped the wheel exiting the chicane, so it looked, and the car spun. I'm not sure if that's exactly what happened, but whatever the cause may be, Charlie Nearberg has dropped well back in the field.
Let's take another look at what happened to Charles Nearberg. Just exiting the left-hander, the white car. No, he didn't put a wheel off, Brian. Either there's some oil on the track or he got caught in the wrong gear. But Charles Nearberg was lucky to go all the way around, and he's back en route. Look at the gap being opened up by the number 12, white and black Reynard. Now Russell Spence over the yellow Swift of Chris Smith.
And some good racing going on in the back. You see the first 3 cars lined up fairly well there, and then we've got 4, 5, 6, and 7, and they look like they're all going to have a pretty good go at each other. That was Harold Heisman running in one of the other Reynards there in the 4th place position.
Up through the S's they go. A lot of change up and down here at Watkins Glen. Onto the backstretch now. Great battle right there. Calvin Fish battling with Robin Buck, the Canadian. Fish vastly more experienced, a former champion in this series.
And he's moving over to the right, trying to get Robin Buck out of his slipstream so he can't draft by him. Gets through the chicane, and Buck is all over him. Looks inside going through turn 9. That's not going to work. And Calvin is able to pull out a little bit of a lead there. You can see that he was able to make up some ground as Robin tried to make that move. And Stuart Crow now having a go at Robin Buck. Great racing here.
Up to turn 10. Sharp left-hander coming. He gets him. Stuart Crow takes the position.
And the long way around. He passed him on the outside. You don't normally see that.
Entering the final corner. Meanwhile, the leader already across the start-finish line. As you see Stuart Crow there in the number 3 Swift. Ironically, Crow and Nearberg driving for the importer of Ralt chassis. A 3rd chassis we expect to see in Atlantic competition this year. But right now, with their new Ralts not ready, they're driving Swifts. And Stuart Crow runs in 2nd place in the championship.
What a good battle we're having on the racetrack here. Stuart wants to move up. He wants to get as many points as he can get. He wants to keep adding to that championship total that he has. He wants to claw his way up to the front of the championship. It looks like Calvin doesn't have the straightaway speed. Look at this, 3 abreast. It looks like Robin Buck and Stuart Crow are able to gain momentum down the straightaway as Stuart Crow goes by. No, he doesn't. He doesn't. Calvin had the better line.
I'm with you. I thought Crow was gone down the inside, but Calvin came across and held him back.
You know, interesting racetrack, Bob. You want to trim the car out as much as you can for the long straightaways, but you can't take too much downforce off of it. You have these very fast, long, sweeping corners. The car has to have some grip there, so you have to be careful. It's a very delicate balance of aerodynamics and drag.
Stuart Crow was having such a great season, never out of the top 5 in the first 4 races of the year, but then crashed out at Montreal, finished 22nd. Otherwise, he might very well be in first place in the championship.
Talk about aerodynamics. I don't know if it's aerodynamics or handling, but that's Russell Spence. And look at the lead that he has built up over Chris Smith, who has done such of the same to Steve Cameron and Harold Heisman.
Here comes Steve Cameron, the former crew chief, a man who knows that car very well. But he started the season in a Swift. He has now changed over to a Reynard, and he says he's learning more and more about it as the season goes on.
And what a really likable guy Steve Cameron is, a Kiwi. Started the season with no ride at all, and Gene Pope, whom he crewed for, gave him the opportunity to drive the Swift while he was waiting, while Gene Pope was waiting for his wife to have a baby. And after that, he decided that Steve should have a ride for the rest of the year. They bought this new Reynard, and they've done really magic with it the last couple of races. Steve's had 2 second-place finishes in the last 2 races.
We'll be back for more of Round 6 of the Toyota Atlantic Championship. The 1990 Toyota Atlantic Championship at Watkins Glen found rookie Brian Till on the pole, next to Canadian veteran Claude Bourbonnais. A demon start by Bourbonnais put him into the lead, but the weather stole the show. Visibility dropped to 0, and the race was stopped to allow skies to clear. 7 hours later, Till had a second chance and made the most of it, taking the lead and holding on for his first career Atlantic victory on his way to winning the 1990 Atlantic Division Championship. And as the saying goes, giant oaks from tiny acorns grow. Back in 1990 here at Watkins Glen, Brian Till won the Toyota Atlantic Championship event, won the title, and is now making his way in Indy cars. And I'm glad to have him in the booth with me here today. There is the red Reynard of Harold Heisman of Oslo, Norway, who's had such a horrific beginning to his 1992 season. He's the teammate to Russell Spence, who has won twice and sat on the pole. Heisman is waiting to finish his first race. But he is a vastly experienced racer. He's kept his chin up through all the misfortune. Let's take an inside look at Harold Heisman. On to the back stretch at Watkins Glen. There is Heisman now being challenged.
That's John Marconi in the Herbalife car. Can't make the move. Harold stuck down to the inside of the racetrack and made it too difficult to take the long way around him for John Marconi. John doing a great job, his best qualifying so far this weekend. He qualified 5th.
Marconi has an interesting hobby as well, Brian. He and his father together own an impressive collection of vintage race cars, and they actually do race them. Great way for father and son to enjoy themselves on the weekend at the racetrack. John Marconi finished 8th in the Indy Lights Championship last year driving turbocharged cars, but he says he likes the ambiance of the Toyota Atlantic Championship better, and that's where he plans to stay. There is Harold Heisman at the middle of your picture. Heisman racing out of Oslo, Norway, a star in the World Sports Car Championship, driving for Swiss millionaire Walter Brun.
You know, it is a battle of the draft here, the aerodynamics.
A broad view gives you some idea of the sweep of Watkins Glen. Plenty of action still to come. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Back at Watkins Glen, drama in the pits. Harold Heisman, who was doing so well, appears to be out of his 6th race in a row. Is this possible, Brian?
Unbelievable. What a run he was having with Steve Cameron and John Marconi, and he's climbing out of the car. Unbelievably bad luck for Harold Heisman. He has to wonder what he's doing wrong.
Keep in mind, the engineer for Harold Heisman's car is Adrian Reynard from England, who designed and built the machine. Mike Earl, the team owner, engineers for his teammate Russell Spence, but Adrian Reynard oversees that car.
And keep in mind this, Harold Heisman is driving this same car that the leader Russell Spence is. Is the problem that he had, is it going to creep up with Russell Spence? We don't know. That's got to be unnerving to someone when you're out in the lead. And look at the lead that he has, looking back to Chris Smith coming on the front straightaway. It has to be unnerving to think about what could possibly have gone wrong with that car.
Well, by now, certainly, Russell Spence knows that his teammate is out of the race. He's been told by the crew on the radio. And he can only hope that whatever befell Harold Heisman will not go wrong with his Reynard.
So far, there hasn't been a problem. One, he's been able to take command. He's taken command of the race from the start. On the restart, Chris Smith tried him, but he easily pulled away from him, and it's been his race to control so far. So let's see what happens.
Down in the pit lane, Bart Kendall has caught up with Harold Heisman.
If there's someone that has worse luck than Harold Heisman, I've yet to find him this year in the Atlantic Series. Harold, Another early exit. What happened?
The engine just stopped. Same as usual. Like often, just quit. Just went, started misfiring a little bit, and then just stopped.
All right, thank you, Bart. Can't you just see it in his eyes? Absolute perplexity. Harold Heisman, professional racing driver, husband and father, out of his 6th straight race. What a tough break. Your heart really has to go out to a guy like that. There is Harold Heisman's teammate, Russell Spence, with a gigantic lead over Chris Smith. Keep in mind, Smith won the last 3 poles, won the last 2 races, and he's getting absolutely blown off by Russell Spence.
I don't know if we're seeing that Reynard is a nice slippery car for long fast tracks, or if it's just a handling advantage or maybe even a power advantage. There's a look at Chris Smith as he comes onto the back straightaway. But what we're seeing is Russell Spence walk away with this.
All of these cars powered by 4-cylinder Toyota engines, 1.6 liters. They make about 240 horsepower at 10,000 RPM. They weigh about 1,170 pounds with the drivers on board. And they'll do about 160 miles an hour when trimmed back for best straight line speed, which is obviously the case with that Reynard. Russell Spence is flying.
Here we said it's a balance of downforce and straight line speed here, and maybe they've taken some of the downforce off the car and gone for the straight line speed. It could very well be it. Every driver has their preference.
There's Peter Fawcetta Jr. Let's ride along.
There's a good look over Peter's shoulder down the front straightaway where the cars are going to get 5th gear. They'll come down here into turn 1, which is a 2nd gear corner, heavy braking.
Robin Buck, the rookie from Canada, just ahead. Fawcetta closing in.
He'll grab 3rd and then 4th before he turns in. Will be interesting to see if he can get a draft off of Robin Buck. I'm not sure he's close enough to do that right now, but we'll see if he can gain on him down the straightaway.
11 turns spread around 2.45 miles up through the S's and onto the back straightaway. Watkins Glen is a real driver's track, and it is fast. Fastest road circuit these drivers will see all year.
Into the new inner loop. He's going to go down to 3rd or 4th gear, and then from this point on, it's basically flat back around to the next straightaway, upshifting all the way.
Let's go back on board now. We'll keep riding with Peter Fawcetta Jr. Get a driver's view of this great racetrack.
You just see him reach down and shift to 5th gear, and now he's going down the short chute in the back into turn 9 or 10, as they call it, the fast left-hander. He'll just click down to 4th gear, let the car go all the way out to the rumble strips, and then back through turn 11 onto the front straightaway.
Notice the collar that he's wearing below his helmet. Tremendous G-forces at these speeds here at Watkins Glen. A lot of the drivers need a little help keeping their head up straight.
Here's a good look at Peter. Yes, these cars can corner in excess of 3 Gs, which is equivalent to an Indy car. Ooh, and Peter got a little wide there over the rumble strips, and that's smoke out of car number 21, Gustavo Gutierrez. It looks like he has a motor problem.
Gutierrez was late getting to Watkins Glen. He commutes to the racetrack from his home in Caracas, Venezuela, and as you can see, as the smoke billows around the exhaust there, he's got fluid coming out of that engine, also dragging something near the left rear.
Nice job there by Gustavo to get the car off the racetrack. It didn't look like he left any oil down. I was looking for a trail. It didn't look like that happened.
So Gutierrez comes to a smoky end. Let's get down to the pits and Bart Kendall.
Okay, I finally caught up to Bert Hart, who's down here in pit lane. Bert, a short day for you out there. What happened?
Well, I think we either blew the gearbox up, cam and pawl, or rear end, something like that. The start kind of, I thought the start was really a start when they waved it, so I laid some rubber, and then I think I did one too many burnouts on it. And it's unfortunate. I tell you, if we didn't have bad luck, I don't think we'd have any luck at all. But you know, that's motor racing, and we'll get them next time.
All right, thank you, Bart. Tough break for Bert Hart. A lot of stiff upper lips down there in the pits today.
And there's a good look at Chris Smith, who's running 2nd. He is your points leader, and if he can't catch Russell Spence, which it doesn't look like anybody can right now, I'm sure he will take those 2nd place points.
Russell Spence having it all his way. 32 years of age, a veteran of Formula 3 and Formula 3000 competition, the dominant minor leagues of open wheel racing over in Europe. He actually quit the sport for a couple of years, then came back, ran well down in New Zealand in the Atlantic Series known as the Peter Jackson Series, then came to America, and he absolutely loves it. Says he'd like to see Formula Atlantic go over to Europe, go to Japan, make it a worldwide series. Now there is Steve Cameron, the Kiwi,
That's your third place car. Steve doing a great job with that car. Like I said, they got that after the second race of the season, and they've really done marvelous things with it. They've been able to take that car. In the last 2 races, he's had 2 second-place finishes, so they're very much improving with it, and now he's running third, doing a great job.
Let's get down to the pits and Bart Kendall.
We've been talking about the great drive that Calvin Fish has had coming up through the field. While I'm here with his team owner, Robert Falanga. You have to be pleased with how Calvin's performing today.
We're extremely pleased. We told everybody it'd be an exciting start, and to go from 17th all the way up to 8th was very exciting the first lap. It's tough when you start a new team, and I think this is a real good start for a new team for Falanga Motorsports.
Obviously very happy with the way things are going so far.
All right, thank you, Bart. There's our man, Calvin Fish, who started way back in 17th spot. He is now up to 5th.
Unbelievable run by Calvin. It's nice to see him back in a car. It's nice to see that, you know, he still has it. You know, you as a driver, you think that you haven't lost any of your edge, and it's nice to be able to get an opportunity that Robert Falanga has given him to get back in this car and prove what he can do, and I think he's doing a really good job of proving it.
Had a terrible time in qualifying, did Calvin. Lost an engine. They replaced it overnight. It was a new engine, and he ran it in on the skid pad here at Watkins Glen. As darkness was falling, he got permission to take it out on the skid pad. All of the teams who were paddocked in that area cleared off. They set parts of race cars around to guide Calvin through the darkness. He went around and around and around, set the valves, broke the engine in, and now he's running in the top 5. We'll be back. Plenty more to come from Watkins Glen. The 1991 Toyota Atlantic Championship at Watkins Glen. Series point leader Joby Marcello sat on pole with season-long rival Jimmy Vasser alongside. Vasser grabbed the lead at the start and led into turn 1. Marcello gave chase until a blown engine ended his day. Vasser claimed his 3rd Atlantic victory of 1991 en route to a season-high 6 wins and 2nd place in the series championship. Back at Watkins Glen, working lap number 21 of 25, watching the battle for 4th place.
That's John Marconi, Calvin Fish, and Stuart Crow. And now the aerodynamics are going to come into play. Those 3 cars are close enough to work off of each other, and this is going to be interesting to see who can best come out with it. We have to use some stock car tactics here and see who wants to be where on the last lap and see what the draft will do for us.
The leader, Russell Spence, says drafting is very important here. Of course, how would he know? He is leading by about 10 seconds at this point. This is the best battle on the racetrack, and it is for 4th place behind Russell Spence, Chris Smith, and Steve Cameron, all running basically alone.
And you saw John Marconi look in his mirrors before he came through that left-hand corner. He knows Calvin's there, and he doesn't know what to do with him. You don't want to block, you don't want to weave too much, but you do want to make it maybe just a little bit difficult to get by.
Closing up, Calvin Fish looking for a way by. Just behind him, Stuart Crow.
Now remember, we saw earlier, it didn't look like Calvin had great straight line speed, so it'll be interesting to see if he can stay with John Marconi down the straightaway, if he can use his draft. We don't know if he'll be able to get by. Here's a look as they come on the back, trying to be very smooth with your hands and turn the car as little as possible, because you don't want to scrub off any speed coming onto this long back straightaway. He looks to the inside. Nothing happening there. I think that was probably more just a hello, I'm here, see if I can make you make a mistake kind of move.
This new inner loop has added about 2 seconds a lap to the times of these cars. The old qualifying record held by the late Joby Marcello, 131.605 miles an hour at 106.4 seconds. Russell Spence now holds the new qualifying lap record, 108.8, about 128 miles an hour.
Really interesting. You see Calvin looking to the inside. I think he knows that he's down on the straight line speed, but this is going to be interesting. We got a lap car in front of it. We'll see what Calvin can do with it. It looks like they held John up just a little bit.
Marconi waited till the last moment to dive out from behind that lap car. Now Calvin Fish is going to look to his inside.
No.
No.
He's trying hard. I think he knows he doesn't have the speed to get him down the straightaway. He's going to try to get him wherever he can, or at least make John make a mistake. And now look, Stuart Crow all over the back of Calvin Fish. You try to make that move, it takes you out of position a little bit. It slows you down. It gives the next guy back in line that little bit of a run on you.
These cars will go from 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds, so they really get going. Now Calvin Smith went right to block Crow. Crow goes back to the left. Ooh, Calvin almost got caught out there.
Almost. He stayed to the right side of the racetrack, tried to make Stewart go around the long way, and that's going to be difficult going into that chicane.
We are in the closing laps of this race. Car going by our announced position with a bad misfire. Great battle for fourth place. We'll take a quick timeout and return for the finishing laps of round 6 of the Toyota Atlantic Championship. Stay with us. Back at Watkins Glen, watching the battle for fourth place. 2 laps remaining for the leader.
And Stuart Crow closes up again in turn 1. All the cars are closing up pretty good. Looked like Calvin got a better shot out. Of course, he used the rumble strips on the way out, too. You don't want to do that because that's going to slow you down. He's been able to hold that distance a little bit. Let's see where he runs on the racetrack. I'm betting right side.
On to the back stretch they go. A stretch of track that's been covered by so many legendary drivers.
Oh, he's going to go to the left. No, now he goes to the right.
All right. And now Crow goes Stewart.
Oh! Nothing happening there, Calvin. His experience is back, and I think that took Stewart by surprise. It was a big chop across the bows.
On board once again with Peter Fawcetta, changing gears, stretching his fingers to get them into the narrow space between the steering wheel and the side of the monocoque. Through the S's, uphill and accelerating, a great part of a great racetrack. Slower traffic up ahead for Fawcetta. Out of the unlikely racing mecca of New York City. Great view from our onboard camera, just diving down into the inner loop.
There's a good look at Chris Smith.
On his own in second place. There you see the race leader, Russell Spence, with 1 lap to go by my unofficial reckoning. Absolutely motoring away from this field. He was 1.1 seconds clear of the field after the first round of qualifying. The second round was neutralized by a wet racetrack, but obviously Russell Spence lost nothing. In the warm-up on full tanks, he just cruised around in about 1 minute 17 seconds a lap as opposed to the 1:08 he ran in qualifying. And his team manager, Mike Earl, told him on the radio, just keep doing that until somebody goes faster and then cut a quicker lap. As a result, at the end of the warm-up, right up top, Russell Spence.
And you could see Chris Smith just come into the picture as Russell Spence entered that new inner loop there at the racetrack. That's how much of a lead he has. He still has about a mile to go, so we can't talk about his victory yet because anything can go wrong. Remember the problems that his teammate Harold Heisman had.
But it would appear that nothing will stop Russell Spence. 1 more corner to go. This is number 10. Up comes number 11, and the checkered flag awaits for the man from Bradford, England, that has brought Reynard to the top of the Toyota Atlantic Championship, and the checkered flag waves for Russell Spence. A dominating victory here at the Glen. Here's that battle now for fourth place. Marconi still trying to hold off Fish.
Calvin looking all over, nothing happening there. That was going to be a move that wasn't going to happen, and he's going to look down onto the straightaway, but John Marconi is going to hold him off, and that was a great 3-way battle.
Marconi, Fish, and Crow behind Russell Spence, Chris Smith, and Steve Cameron. A great race. There you see Stuart Crow look over at Calvin Fish and applaud. I think. I'd be tempted to say it is. And there with the crowd salute, Russell Spence. Behind him, the yellow 07 of Chris Smith, whose victory streak is broken at 2. And Russell Spence becomes the first driver in the 1992 Toyota Atlantic Championship to win 3 races. He won at Miami to open the season. He won at Phoenix on the oval. And now he wins on the fastest road circuit these drivers will visit all year. Second fastest only to the oval in terms of outright speed. Russell Spence will move back up in the points.
And interesting to note, on this fast racetrack, we have 2 Reynards, first and third. Could it be a sign of things to come that the Reynard is going to be the slippery car and the fast stuff?
Well, they have some tight racetracks coming. They'll be doing some street racing in Toronto and elsewhere on the Toyota Atlantic Championship in 1992. I have a feeling that this guy is going to be tough to beat. Russell Spence obviously delighted with his performance and that of his race car, while the woes of his teammate Harold Heisman go on. Heisman out of his 6th straight race. Spence picks up his 3rd victory. It's going to be a great season. We'll wait for Russell Spence to bring his Reynard to victory lane. Bart Kendall will be there to meet him, and we'll hear from our winner when we return to Watkins Glen. Welcome back to Watkins Glen, where the shadows are growing long and the celebrations have begun in victory lane. Let's get down to meet our winner with Bart Kendall.
How was it out there? You led wire to wire. Looked like it was a piece of cake, was it?
Well, my Virgin Steady Systems Reynard was exceptionally good. And before we go any further, I'd like to dedicate that win to both Phil and Patrick, my mechanics, because they've been in for a lot of flack just lately, but for that one, you know, full compliments. But yeah, the car was very good. It handled well, and it was a good race for us, good clean race.
All right, thank you, Bart. Russell Spence barely looking winded, just a measure of his domination today. Here's a look at the final results. Spence with his 3rd victory of the season over Chris Smith. Steve Cameron finishes 3rd, followed by John Marconi with a steady drive, and Calvin Fish all the way up from 17th. Stuart Crow finishes 6th, followed by 11th through 15th, led by Carlos Bonetti. Now let's get back down to Bart Kendall, who's standing by with our runner-up finisher, Chris Smith.
All right, down here in victory circle again. Chris, you didn't win, but I know that there's other things on your mind. You can't be too disappointed with that 2nd place finish.
No, the way our weekend's gone, I'm real happy. You know, the crew worked so hard. We lost oil pressure in the motor this morning, and they were flat out getting it fixed. I went off this morning. They went flat out getting it fixed, and it really paid off. The car was good. I think we were 1st in class today, and that's about all we could hope for. And on to Toronto, where we should be in the hunt for sure.
All right, a hectic weekend for Chris Smith, but more importantly, he does add points to his 1st place total.
All right, thank you once again, Bart. Here's a look at the championship. Following events here in Watkins Glen, round 6 of 14 in the 92 championship. Chris Smith remains in 1st place with 73 total points, but Russell Spence jumps from 4th to 2nd, ahead of Stuart Crow, who drops down from 2nd to 3rd. Down in victory lane, the champagne spraying is underway. From here, the Toyota Atlantic Championship will move on to a series of 3 races in Canada at Toronto, Troy-Rivere, and Vancouver in British Columbia. Brian Till, your final thoughts on today's race?
Well, I think we're seeing a great battle for the championship. You know, Chris was able to pull out his lead a little bit. We've seen the Reynard work very well on a long, fast racetrack. I think the rest of the season really is pretty much up in the air. You know, it's going to be a great championship battle, and that's what the Toyota Atlantic Championship is all about.
I agree with you completely. I'm looking forward to it. We thank you for joining us here at Watkins Glen for round 6 of the Toyota Atlantic Championship. I'm Bob Varsha for Brian Till and Bart Kendall. So long from Watkins Glen.